bedrooms, one occupied by Jamie. The other had been his father's and now lay empty. Sometimes he still heard his father moving about in there. Jamie ate some preserved apricots from a jar. He smoked woodbine cigarettes while drinking strong tea. He buttered 2 slabs of white bread and sprinkled them with sugar before wrapping them carefully in wax paper and slipping them into his jacket pocket for later. He read a few pages of Tarzan and the Ant-Men by Edgar Rice Burroughs. In this story, Tarzan was taken prisoner and enslaved by a race of tiny people who put him to work in the mines. Jamie McCraith was fond of reading, particularly stories of adventure and murder. The other books he had out on loan from the travelling library that January day were The Mysterious Affair at Styles and an instruction manual for building a carburettor engine. Jamie locked the cottage and stowed the keys in a pile of slates by the back door. Locked doors had been unknown in Loyal until 3 years earlier, when Jamie McCraith's father was murdered. He fetched Bill the pony from the paddock behind the hen house. Bill's shaggy mane was filled with ice crystals. The village of Loyal is one street lined with whitewashed houses that sits on the northernmost edge of Britain. Settled in the 19th century by Highlanders fleeing the fire and blood of the clearances, Loyal was a kelp town until there was no more kelp. The war had taken most of the young men, and now it was a village of cripples and old women, bearing the names of long-destroyed royal clans: McCraith, McCrae, Buchanan. They grieved for the past. They held the memories of their grandfathers and grandmothers close. Jamie led Bill the pony down the dark street by Loyal's tiny harbour. The oily salt scent followed him in the cold air. During the storm, the boats had been pulled high above the waterline into the cobbled street, masts unstepped and lashed down with rope. The boats now lay sprawled on their sides, putting Jamie in mind of beached sea monsters. At 10 to 8, Jamie was unlocking the shop. He had been the butcher in Loyal for 2 years, since he came home from the war. He went to the cellar, unhooked a large side of beef, and wrapped it in a sheet. He dragged it out to where Bill was tethered at the front of the shop. Jamie had spent several months training the pony not to fear the scent of blood. Still, Bill sometimes balked at it. The beef had been ordered by the castle of Altnaharra for New Year's Eve, known as Hogmanay in these parts. It was now 3 days late owing to the storm, and Jamie was uneasy concerning payment. He loaded the side of beef onto Bill using a harness and cliffs of his own design, then set off along the path which followed the sea. He did not meet or see a living soul on the road. At 9 o'clock, the hour of winter sunrise, the world began to reveal itself. Birds circling in the brightening sky, the hills painted in russet brown and grey, rolling on and on into the deep north. Out to sea, the sun was a burning ball, casting its shattered light across the water. The castle of Altnaharra sat on the isle of the same name, a quarter of a mile off the western shore of the peninsula. In 1898, Colonel John Baring returned from India and travelled north into the Highlands to take up his inheritance, a dilapidated ruin on a wind-struck island. He repaired the castle, planted gardens, set up beehives. 2 women joined him, Alice Seddington and Nora Marr. They took in 4 infants, foundlings plucked from the many destitute communities that litter the Highlands. The residents of Altnaharra were considered odd by the local population, but were left alone. In 1917, a great steel gate appeared across the stone causeway that connected Altnaharra to the mainland. The children stopped attending the school in Loyal. The women no longer came to the village for bootlaces, no longer gathered driftwood on the shore. They retreated into themselves. The only signs of life within were the polite notes left for tradesmen in the wire cage that hung from the gate.